What's up, everybody, and welcome on into One Soccer. Today, this is Season in Review, and guys, we're going to be looking back at the year that was for the Canadian men's national team. It's Andy Petrillo, it's Gareth Wheeler, and it's Oliver Platt with you. And what a year it was, guys. It's crazy to think the amount of things that have happened within the men's program. Getting a new coach, going to Copa America, and by the way, finishing fourth, highest-ranked Concacaf nation to do so in a Copa America CONMEBOL tournament. Then, of course, we have some breakout stars as well. Moise Bombito, Jacob Schaffelberg. There's a ton of stuff to talk about with this men's team and, of course, qualifying for the Final Four Nations League as well. But, Wheels, I'm going to start with you. Is there any story in particular when it comes to this team that has stood out to you?
You mentioned it. The M-Bomb, the eraser, Moise Bombito, and his rise to prominence within the Canadian men's national team. If we spin it all the way back to their first game of 2024 in that make or break game against Trinidad and Tobago to even qualify, he didn't play in that game. And his only previous look with the national team program was the previous year in the Gold Cup, where he played as a central midfielder. Jesse Marsch took over, needed solutions in order to revitalize the center back position. Bombito slotted in, and he was a perfect fit from day number one. In fact, all he's done is got better and better as the year went on as well. He played in every minute of the 13 games under Jesse Marsch in 2024, and looks a player that you simply cannot take out of the side. His athleticism, his ability to press, his aerial presence, and when teams try to play the ball in behind, his recovery pace is unlike anything I've seen in a Canadian kit. Being able to track back and defend the way that he does, it's just been an exceptional year. And he's the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because this was the position of really significant question when it came to the men's national team, who would fill this role. And now Bombito, I think he's officially formed a big three with the Canadian men's national team, along with David and Davies. Bombito has to be seen as that player. He's hit the ground running since his move to Nice as well. So he is the biggest and best story for me, because I think his role going forward, Andy, is just only going to continue to rise in prominence.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ollie?
I think that's a great story, but I think it's part of the bigger story for me, which is the Copa America run. I think that's something that's pretty rare to do, and obviously in the history of this program, and even I think going forwards as well. Like I don't think this should be taken for granted, and particularly in the circumstances that they were in at the time the tournament came around. It's like this could have been an absolute disaster. Like Jesse Marsch came in and had a run of playing two top-class European nations in his first couple of games as friendlies, then followed by a major tournament starting with the world champions Argentina, and all kinds of questions around the team. Wheels highlighted some of them there. Who's the centre-back pairing going to be? Where's Davies going to play? Who's Eustachio's partner in midfields? Can we get any kind of confidence and good feeling and momentum back around this team after what had happened at the end of the previous year and the previous year in general? And they hit it out of the park. It was an unbelievable run for Canada, a brilliant tournament, and maybe you were a little bit worried against the Netherlands after that result in Marsch's first game, but very quickly they found some confidence, found some momentum, and turned it around and made it a tournament that I think will live long in the memory, and started to build the careers and reputations of a lot of the players that we're going to be talking about as big players for Canada for years to come.
Nice to have choices as well when you look back on the year that was for the Canadian men's national team. And, I'm pretty sure not long ago, and for some people, this may still be their answer, if I asked you who was Canada's best player, right away they would say Alphonso Davies. And this year, by the way, under Jesse Marsch, he was officially given the captain's armband after the retirement of Atiba Hutchinson a year ago. So Davies is the captain. A lot of people would have said best player. Some people still do. But again, when you look back at some of these tournaments, I don't know, Ollie, where you are with Jonathan David. And if you actually feel that this has become Jonathan David's team, is he the driving force behind the team's success this year?
I think it has become his team. He does the hardest thing to do on the pitch, which is score and create goals, and he does it to a dominant degree in a Canada jersey over the past year. They've scored 12 goals under Jesse Marsch, and Jonathan David has scored or assisted 8 of them. And that's, there's probably 1 or 2 more that he's involved in different ways as well that you don't see with the way this guy plays off the ball. So he's been the player of the year without a doubt. but I do think it's fair to call it his team. And that's not to diminish Alphonso Davies, who I think also had a fantastic year as captain of this team. But it's the way Jesse Marsch deploys Jonathan David. He's playing more as a number 10. Everything goes through him. I think it's hard to dispute at this point that the team really revolves around Jonathan David, and he has absolutely delivered for club and for country this year.
Do you feel the same, Wheels?
I'm not sure if Canada revolves around one player, to be honest with you. The argument, who's the better player? Well, David's probably been better on the balance of 2024, but what Alphonso Davies brings to the table is incredibly unique and different and special as well. And the fact that he now wears the captain's armband puts even more responsibility on Alphonso Davies. That was calculated. He seems more dialed in when it comes to the national team as well. We've been here before with Jonathan David. He won the Canada Men's Player of the Year back in 2019. I trumpeted how important he was for the team back then. And it just seems to be a different player can step up at different times. And it's very interesting. They're very different personalities, but both are kind of going along the same trajectory now, both out of contract in the summer, both looking to potentially make a big move, both thriving in a more defined role under Jesse Marsch as well. So I just don't know if I can look at that one player and say, yes, he is the guy when you have more than one. I think that this is what makes Canada a really interesting team right now as well. Sometimes those smaller or middle range nations, when they just have one focal point, I think of Lewandowski in Poland, it's just not enough just having one. But the fact that now Canada go 2, 3, 4, 5 deep, playing at a top level, I think that bodes well for the program.
Yeah. But speaking of the captain, as we go back to Alphonso Davies, what grade would you give him for 2024, Wheels?
I'll give him a B+. I still think that his game can take it to another level. What I really liked about Alphonso Davies was his commitment to defending and playing within the team structure and taking on a leadership role as well. I just think that the next step for Davies is trying to figure out how to get him more in the attack, because I think that will make Canada even a better side. So I think that is kind of the next phase that's not on Davies. I think that's more playing within the team structure and enabling Davies to find a more pronounced role, playing attacking football with this national team. But I think that he grew up a lot and showed a different side of him this year, which is part of the evolution of very good young players. And he's just gone through it on his own timeline. And I think that 2024 was a really good one on the field with the national team.
Okay. Ollie?
Yeah, so I was similar. I was debating B+, A-. I think it was excellent this year. Maybe his best year in a Canada jersey. You can't defend the way they defend without having athletes like Davies and Bombito in the back line. They play so high up the pitch. He's integral to that. But then what just really impressed me as much as anything is the way he took to the captain's armbands. Like, there are a lot of people who were saying it should be Stefan Eustáquio, and Eustáquio would have been a fantastic captain. But I think Davies has delivered on that front. He's been consistent for his team. He's done what the coach has asked. He's led. He's just really, I think, put team in front of individual, which is really what you're asking for, I think, from a top class player like him when you give him the armband. So great year. All credit to him. And
I know that the previous manager, by the way, like, it seemed like, there was some question about where Davies wanted to play. But there's been no question under Jesse Marsch where he's playing, right? And he's embraced the role. So that's a real positive as well.
Sorry, I just have to go back to that. Excellent year. B+.
I said B+, A-.
What does a kid or student have to do to get an AA+? That was an excellent year, kid. Excellent year.
That's how highly we think of Alphonso, that we think there's even more. That's
exactly. Yes, it's subjective.
I do not want Mr. Platt or Mr. Wheeler as my teacher. Okay, so they're your grades, Alphonso. Let's talk about some surprises here, and biggest surprises perhaps of 2024 when it comes to the men's national team. Could be good or bad. We like to stay on the positive side. Why not? We're in the holiday spirit. What was a positive surprise for you, Ollie?
I'm going to go with Jacob Schaffelberg, which I think is a pretty obvious one. To see a guy who had basically been discarded by Toronto FC, rebuilt his career in Nashville, becoming a real standout player at the Copa America, a player making a real impact on a stage like that, I think was really special and unexpected. We always thought that Schaffelberg, I think, had a role to play at his best. he was that super sub for a long periods, but now he's established himself in the starting lineup, and he doesn't look like he's going anywhere going into the big games in Nations League finals. So it's been really cool to see a player who I think has taken some time to really build the confidence and the sense that he belongs in that starting 11 when he looks around at the teammates he's got in that team. But it's there now, and you can see it, and he's really fun to watch.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very hard to disagree with that. Like, he's got a whole new fan base now. The fact that even like his little girl was born, and now the Halifax Tide have gotten involved. They've already pre-signed her. I mean, this is a soccer family now that's in the making here with Schaffelberg, right?
Scored 5 goals for Canada this year. That was joint most with Jonathan David, and big goals in big moments as well. So he's a fan favorite for very good reasons. I have 2 surprises. I'll share a player, but I'll also share a moment. Mathieu Choinière had 1 Canada cap heading into 2024. And it wasn't a very good performance against Japan in under very difficult circumstances last fall. And he stepped right in and I think he's built himself a role within the Canadian men's national team. It just wasn't clear. I think there was a lot of faith that he had the potential to do it, but whether he's going to get the opportunity and what that fit actually looked like. And for me, he took full advantage. It was a pleasant surprise in a position of need, especially in terms of depth, having reliable players. And he's absolutely shown that he can be one. But the biggest surprise of the year, it had to be the 0-0 draw in Bordeaux against France. I mean, Canada, their first game under Jesse Marsch, they were absolutely torched in the second half against the Netherlands. They gave up 4 goals. You're like, oh no, the French are next. How difficult. The second game, very quick turnaround. And the fact that they played France to a 0-0, Max Crepeau was outstanding in that game. The commitment of the Canadian players, that they looked like they were kind of embracing in those early days under Marsch, what he was preaching, and they got stuck in and they came away with the result there. That was wild for me because it set the tone, provided the framework of belief heading into Copa America. Without that result, I'm not sure if they go into that game against Argentina with as much confidence and poise as they did.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was also the turning point for a lot of fans as well, and them believing in this team, believing in Jesse Marsch, because we know heading into those 2 games, everyone was up in arms. How could Canada Soccer do this? How could they book these 2 teams? Yeah, you never want to turn down Netherlands and France, but oh my goodness, the guys are going to get crushed and you're going to destroy their confidence. And then, yeah, that second half, they allowed the 4 goals against Netherlands, but they also held them scoreless in that first half. So when you look at it, 4 halves against, 2 top teams, you remain, you keep them off the score sheet for 3 of them. I think people would take that all day long. And suddenly I just felt like it completely changed. I just felt like the way that people talked about this team, the way people talked about Jesse Marsch in particular, it just completely changed after that result against France. Completely agreed. But we wouldn't be a proper journalistic show here, gentlemen, if we didn't do the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. And you have to look at who probably fell short of expectations in 2024. Wheels, who was that for you?
Well, everyone is journalism now, so I'm not sure our voice means that much. But
no, we actually went to school. We studied. We have integrity. I am not letting anyone take that away from us.
You're journalism. What fell short of expectations? I still think that that second striker playing alongside Jonathan David, I still feel like there's room for significant growth there. And it did fall short of expectations. Kyle Larin scored twice. I thought he was okay. I thought he had a good year, maybe not a great year for the Canadian men's national team, but there was opportunity for other players to step up, and they collectively didn't score a goal. I mean, that's what it's all about, especially in this team, playing quick, playing in transition. You need to take advantage of opportunity, and no one else scored. On the balance of the year, 14 Canada games played, 14 goals scored, 5 by David, 5 by Schaffelberg, who's really playing as an outside left midfielder, 2 from Larin, Kone, and Hoylett with the other 2 goals. There is room for another striker or 2 to step up and show that they can be relied upon to bring the goals when called upon. That's going to be a huge storyline for me to watch in 2025, who can take advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself.
Okay. What about for you, Ollie?
Yeah, I'm going along the same lines. I think, like, Kyle Larin, the goal scoring has obviously dropped off. He scored 14 goals in 13 games in 2021. Since then, he's got 8 in 34. you'd obviously want that to improve. I think he would want that to improve. I do still think that, like, I think Kyle Larin had a decent year. Like, there were games where Larin played well and was important. So I don't really feel, that he deserves all the ire that he sometimes gets as that second striker. And like Will says, there are others that can maybe pick up some of the loads, and we're still struggling to find who that is. One player I think you have to say has been a disappointment for Canada is Ike Ugbo, who was really recruited to the program under John Herdman, like with a decent reputation and billed as the guy who could be that real rival to David and Larin in terms of playing time, and adds a more natural number 9 to the group. And it just hasn't happened. And his club career isn't going particularly well either right now with Sheffield Wednesday. So that one has been a disappointment, but let's see if Oluwaseyi or Theo Bair or even someone new coming into the program can start to make an impact in 2025.
I know I asked you guys this before because it's kind of been a little bit of an inconsistent year for Kone in that midfield. I wonder if more people expected his partnership with Eustachio to blossom to another level. Now, mind you, Kone was injured for one of those windows.
Twice.
He did also have that incredible penalty kick we know in Copa America. So he's done this where we're like, yeah, this is amazing. But Copa also didn't start the greatest for him. I think that was when the rumors were swirling as well that he was going to be going to Marseille. I think it got a little bit to him. Maybe he wasn't as focused. So it wasn't exactly the best of starts. Then he kind of, became that hero in the penalty shootout. Then the injuries. I don't know where you are on maybe his limited trajectory this year, Ollie, and if you thought it was just going to go further along. And I mean, maybe you're not concerned at all, and you're like, whatever, we'll see next year. Great, fine. Not concerned about the Eustachio-Kone partnership.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about him. I just think he has so much talent, and he's his ascent has been really rapid, right? Like, he's playing for Marseille, a massive club. It's happened very, very quickly. I'm not necessarily concerned about, a few bumps in the road on the way for a young player going through that. The injuries are maybe, if there is a concern, like you don't want those to persist. Obviously going into next year with multiple tournaments for Canada. And I do think he's someone that they need to have available to be at their best, because he's just such a difference-making, talented player. But I wouldn't say, as much as there were some ups and downs for Kone this year, the ups were like really high at times. And that's what I kind of focus on with a player of that quality.
He's 22. The guy is a stud. So, and now he's playing under a demanding manager. I like Roberto De Zerbi. I think that he's a manager that can bring out the best. Sometimes it requires some tough love. Sometimes it requires an arm around a player. And I think that Jesse Marsch approached things very similarly. Like, he didn't start a couple of those games during Copa America as well. But, the technical player that he is, I think he's going to be such an important player. Doesn't turn 23 till next summer. So, yeah, I'm bullish on Kone and the potential that he brings to the table.
All right. I don't know. I mean, this next question, I get it, right? Unsung hero, but I feel like we've waxed poetic about every player on this team. But maybe you're going to surprise me. I don't know, Ollie. Who would you say was the unsung hero of the year?
I've got an unsung hero. I think he's the definition of an unsung hero for Canada, Max Crepeau, because twice
no one loves goalkeepers, including Wheels. That's right.
There you go.
Give
You're on board,
love.
Andy. Well, here's the thing about Max Crepeau in particular, though, is I don't think it's just about giving him love. Like, this has happened twice now in his Canada career, where he's played a brilliant tournament. We're watching the highlights against France here, where he was also spectacular. But twice he's played a brilliant tournament for Canada. The first one was the 2021 Gold Cup, and then the last one was obviously this summer at the Copa America. And then very quickly after, he's not the number one goalkeeper anymore. And I don't think it's through any fault of his own. Like, Boyan came back, obviously, for the World Cup qualifiers, played brilliantly. You can't argue with that decision. And now Dane Sinclair is a very talented young goalkeeper who may be the number one for Canada going forwards. We'll see where they go for the Nations League games in March, but you'd expect Sinclair to start those games now. And I just think Crepeau, has been really unfortunate to play as well as he has on big stages, and then find himself back on the bench in quite short order each time it's happened. So I feel for him, because I think he's done everything that's been asked of him to be Canada's number one, and it just so happens that he's had a couple of very good goalkeepers to compete with.
Yeah. All right. I like that one.
I just think the poster boy for an unsung hero, It's Alistair Johnston. Like,
But he's not unsung. I'm not.
I don't think he's as sung as he should be.
He was in the team of the tournament for the Copa America.
I know, but you kind of just brush him aside because he's become kind of like the furniture of the team. He's stable, he's steady. Like, he's got over 50 caps right now. I'm not sure if he was the best right back. Munoz of Colombia was excellent in that tournament, by the way. But still, Johnston's always there. He is not sung.
You're the one unsinging him. You just.
I know, but I just think when, like, even outsiders, maybe people that don't follow it as much, you think of Davies and David and players like this, even Schaffelberg now, but Johnston is consistently excellent for this team. His club career has taken a next step, but I just think because he brings comfort to the table. It's not the sizzle. It's not the. That's why I think that kind of epitomizes what an unsung hero is.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, though, that he's given a lot of due, especially because of what he's done with Celtic. Like, everyone's like, oh, my goodness, like, he's so amazing. I think people are very much aware of what he does. But this is the good
right back.
Yeah, I do think so. But
for a
here's
right
the other
back,
thing.
he's incredibly popular.
He is popular, but this is the depth of the team. And I'm not taking away from Alistair Johnston because he's going to be your first choice. But even when he was injured and they put Richie Larea in, like, they still look good. Like, they're still. I'm not saying he's replaceable.
I was just going to say, Ollie picked a goalkeeper that's in a share for the top goalkeeper for Canada. So, I mean, we can critique Ollie's pick if we want. That's way more up for grabs. The other one, the other guy I was going to give credit to, maybe this is more of a hipster pick here. This maybe will suit what you guys are looking for. What about Mauro Biello? Okay, like. He tried to keep the program on the rails. He guided them to that important 2-0 victory over Trinidad and Tobago. It was coming off a dreadful end to 2024. And he's remained part of Jesse Marsh's staff, bringing in some continuity. Him and Stalteria being that. Like, I feel like there's people behind the scenes that are more unsung heroes than trying to pick a player on the field. So I'll go with Biello if your Alistair Johnston pick doesn't work for you.
I like that one. See, now you're doing your work. I like that one. And plus, you're just easier to pick on, Wheels. That's all.
That's fine.
More fun. All right. So everything that we've just discussed when it comes to the men's national team, let's give a final grade. And I'm talking everything, right? Your wins, your losses, performances, fan engagement, on the pitch, off the pitch, everything when you put it all together, Wheels. What is the grade that you're giving the men's national team?
I think it's got to be an A, like based upon, and this is based upon where expectations were heading into this year, because I think there was dread and doom that were in the forecast. Instead, they went out and qualified for Copa America, singly hired the right manager, going about it the right way, doing an extensive search and landing on someone that former players and the association seemed to like, and Marsh's style of play. People like me were wondering how it would work out, and Marsh has exceeded expectations. He's wrapped his arm around these players and the program and the country and has taken this forward. I'm not even sure heading into the World Cup whether Canada will play a run of games like they played this calendar year. Forget about Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname, the bookends. Every single other team they played are in the top 50 in the world, including a run where they played Netherlands, who are now 7th, France, that are 2, then Argentina, that are 1, then Argentina, Uruguay, USA, Mexico, Panama. These are all very good games. This has been a massive step up in competition. I think it's reinvigorated the fandom around this team and around this program, which is essential. Like, you need the Flava Flav. You need the hype heading into 2026, and I feel like they've got their swagger back to a certain degree. Now they need to parlay these good vibes and this really likable play into more wins, more goals, and some comprehensive performances. I think the performances overall, Andy, maybe a B or a B plus, but overall the knock-on effect and how you feel about this program coming out of 2024, it has to be an A.
Yeah. Okay, that's all right. That's a high grade. What you giving, Ollie? Mr. Platt, really tough teacher, does not grade on a curve.
I mean, it's hard to disagree. I think obviously if you take it in the context of what last year was and what that was kind of inherited coming into 2024, like, it's hard to fault how this year has gone. I think it's been a massive success on and off the pitch, or at least on the men's side. So, I'm going to give him the Davies A- because again, I'm going to challenge.
Wasn't that a B plus?
To achieve a little bit more.
B plus, A-.
A- in this case. I think we can do even better. We can win a trophy. Maybe we can take the team around the country a little bit more. It'd be great to see national team games back in Montreal and Vancouver soon. But yeah, like I said, it's hard to criticize based on the way the year has gone on and off the pitch.
It's giving them an A, and they won 4 games in 90 minutes in the calendar year. Like, was it 4 or 5? Might 2 against Suriname, USA. Peru and Trinidad and Tobago. So I still think that the performances and the outcomes can be better, but the way we feel about this team, they've knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and so based on that, then when you look at their performances and everything, and you look at them in comparison to the United States and Mexico, which are perennial contenders in CONCACAF, are you willing to say, I'll start with you, Ollie, that Canada was clearly the best CONCACAF team in 2024?
Yeah, we just saw it twice. I think we saw it in the friendlies against the US and Mexico, and we saw it at the Copa America, where Canada was the team that advanced furthest and looked, for me, by far the most convincing of the CONCACAF teams. So, like, obviously the big test is to come in March on that front in terms of who the best team in CONCACAF is right now. But you certainly feel good about Canada's chances. They certainly have that claim, I think, for the year of 2024. And it's just a question of how quickly can Pochettino start to build some upwards momentum with that US team, and then it will be a more interesting question, I think. But right now, absolutely.
Yeah, a rebuilding year for all 3 countries, in fairness. It's just Canada took that step quicker, and they made the change, in fairness, quicker in terms of the manager. I mean, what Pochettino can do with the resources he has with the US, we'll see. Playing Pulisic on the inside, I think that could go a long way to making their team better, even though there's no chance I'm watching the Pulisic documentary story on Paramount Plus. No, thank you. That is a hard pass for me. And Mexico, I mean, there's some things that happen in sports or in life. You're like, Javier Aguirre taking a full beer can off the noggin, bleeding from the head, and brushing it off like it was nothing. It was incredible. And guess what? His team responded and just destroyed Honduras 4-0 in the next game. I think Mexico are going to be dramatically improved. It's going to be a big game at Copa America, or it's a Nations League to kick off 2024. It's going to be a big one. Don't sleep on Panama as well. Panama are a very good nation and one that should be reckoned with here in CONCACAF.
Yeah, I'm inclined to side with you guys, where I think when you just look at maybe overall performance, I think the Canadians were stronger, but I still think the title of who the best in CONCACAF between these 3, I just think it's still up for grabs, because at the end of the day, the Americans started things off with, once again, winning Nations League. So they ended the year with a trophy. Canada, yes, and I don't want to take anything away from Canada beating them in September, but guys, we know that was a nothing burger USA lineup. Like, we know that. The Canadians did what they had to do against that kind of lineup. Mexico, it was a good challenge, with what they were able to do against Mexico, but that's why I think the timing's right to see, who can maybe go ahead. But I still kind of think I think Canada's put themselves in the conversation to be a 3-headed monster instead of the 2-headed monster that has reigned supreme.
USA will be the favorites to win that. There's no doubt about it. But Canada, you're right, very much in the mix.
All right, let's end things off quickly, then going maybe a little bit more worldwide here with the Canadian team as we enter 2025. Wheels, where would you have Canada ranked in the world?
Oh, well, they're 31 right now, 2 spots behind Wales. So there's certainly
should be above Wales.
At some point, yes. I feel like a great divide. I think a reasonable expectation to end 2025 would be from the 20 to 24 range. I think that's about fair for where the program is right now.
Okay. That would be incredible for this program. Where are you at there, Ollie?
That potential.
Right now, I think probably mid-20s if you're just, reflecting on the more immediate past as opposed to like the last 5 years would be about right. But yeah, they certainly have the opportunity, I think, to push up into that region in 2025.
Well, just if you're going to say that CONCACAF's a 3-headed monster, the U.S. finished the year ranked 16th, Mexico 19th.
Yeah, they should be lower.
Canada should be right in that mix as well.
That's what we're doing. We're putting them in that mix. FIFA, what's up? All right, there you go, guys. That was looking back at the year that was 2024 for the Canadian men's national team. Cannot wait for 2025. As we know, a ton of excitement between qualifying for the Final Four in Nations League and, of course, Gold Cup. That's Wheels. That's Ollie. I'm Andy. You've been watching this special edition of the Canadian men's national team season in review. We'll see you next time.